Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you all here to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Council of the Municipality of Thames Centre. The date is Monday, March 24th, 2025, and the time is 5 p.m. and I would like to call this meeting to order. We have no additions to our agenda that I am aware of. So I'm asking. Oh,
Excuse me,
but
Mayor,
there
we
is-
do have one revision. We have a revised attachment to item 10.3, council and board remuneration and expenses.
Thank you to the clerk. All right, so an approval of the agenda then, a motion. Deputy Mayor Smybert and seconded by Councillor Lockie. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. Go ahead, Councillor Lockie.
Yeah, through your worship, I declare a conflict of interest on item 7.1 and 7.3. And the reason is because I'm the Director of Finance for Advanced Drainage Systems, which is one of the properties that neighbors to both of the applicants.
Thank you. I do actually have a few announcements to start with this evening. The first one is the municipality of Thames Centre has officially acquired 9.13 acres of land in Dorchester, north of Eva Street and south of Ida. The primary use of this land will be to establish new parklands, which will give local residents access to a park that is closer to home. This investment means more space for kids to play, for families to gather, and for everyone to enjoy the outdoors. This land is in the gap area identified in the 2023 Community Services and Facilities Master Plan, which called for land to be added to the municipality's parkland supply on the north side of Dorchester, north of the Thames River. 71% of Thames Centre residents surveyed during the consultation phase of the 2023 Community Services and Facilities Master Plan supported investments in parks and open space. The land was independently appraised at $2,280,000. The municipality negotiated a purchase price of $1,950,000, with the previous owners also receiving $330,000 charitable receipt from the municipality for donating the remaining balance of the land value. There will be no impact on property taxes, and there will be no debentures. The purchase price will be covered by existing capital infrastructure funds and the Parkland Dedication Fund, Reserve Fund, which was specifically established for the fund to fund new parkland development, and which this council strengthened in September of 24. Establishing new parklands will preserve a green space in the community in an area that will eventually see future housing developments. The design and amenities and other features offered by this new parkland will be considered through future public meetings and budget process. And I think you'll see a slide up on the screen if you're interested in having a look. Oops, sorry. There it is. Okay. All right. Hope that goes over well with all the community. There we are. Okay, and just before we get into the rest of the meeting, I just want to send out a little reminder to the folks in Ward 1. We're going to go ahead with our mini town halls that we did last year. They were pretty successful in getting the public to come in and talk to councillors about anything that's particularly on their minds. So the first of these sessions will be Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, as a matter of fact, March the 26th. It will be held between 7 and 3 p.m. at the Thorndale Lions Community Center on Upper Queen Street in Thorndale. So you're all welcome to, whether you live in the ward or not, or whether you just want to hang out and see what is being said in all areas of the municipality, we're happy to have you. The other thing is that we're going to do our annual mayor's breakfast, and that will be on Thursday, April the 10th, starting at the early hour of 7 p.m. for anyone who, 7 a.m., who would like to come out for breakfast. And it'll be held in the Flight Exec Center in Dorchester. So we're going to begin tonight's meeting with a presentation from Mr. Greg Strauss, resident here in Dorchester. So whenever you're ready. Oh, sorry about that.
Sorry. Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for your timely replies to our emails. Our question here is to do with the new stormwater rate structure that is proposed, or actually has already been passed. It would have been nice to have this discussion maybe perhaps before it was passed, and with the changes being made, that we have a property, and I'm talking on behalf of my wife and myself, but we also have other people that have talked to us about slightly bigger properties, residential properties that are now subject to this new stormwater structure, which doubles what we've previously been paying, even though we only have slightly bigger properties than the what was mentioned in your pamphlet here. So in the pamphlet that came out to us, the findings from your rate study says properties generating more runoff should contribute more proportionally. So I'm saying that our property neither generates more runoff, and proportionally, with our property just being 0.16 or 16% bigger, why are we being charged 100% more in our stormwater new fees? So hopefully we can get some answers. Again, we have a residential property, lots of rain barrels. We circulated a report to council, kind of just summing that up. It's all grass. It's a slightly bigger backyard. No water runs off into the stormwater on the roads. Understand that there is a need to pay more, but perhaps maybe everybody should be paying $5 more. But our property neither fits into any of these categories that you pay consultants probably thousands of dollars and didn't seem to follow with this new policy.
Sorry, Mr. Strauss, I just wanted a little bit of clarification on the next steps. As you know, that this, as you stated earlier in your opening remark, that this has been something that's been considered and approved by council. So you have advised us by email about your concerns. And the next step for council would then be to look at this again for the 2026 budget. It's not something that we can pull back right at this moment. It's not that I disagree with that. It's just that I'm not sure what the procedure was in terms of informing residents other than the notification. Can I have clarification on that? If that, sorry, Jared, can you speak to that?
Yes, Ken. Thanks, Your Worship. We had the council workshop on, I believe, December 3rd. That was the council workshop that went through the rates with the PowerPoint presentation. That PowerPoint presentation was again delivered to council through Watson Associates on December 9th. The letter that Mr. Strauss is speaking of, was sent out on February 18th of 2025.
At this time, the only thing that I can say to you is that we can have another look at this for the 26 budget. We can consider that at that time. I don't, Councillor Heeman has something to say, so I'll let him do that first.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. And thank you, Mr. Strauss, for your presentation. I, I, um, I haven't heard this exact concern, but I have heard similar concerns about, the appropriateness of the way that the rates are calculated. I think there's, again, when we received the delegation or the presentation from Watson Associates, um, it, every way of slicing the cake is imperfect, and that it's a rough tool. And I think that we owe it to ourselves and to our residents to take another look at that and see if we can fine tune it a bit more. So I would make the motion to receive the presentation, and that staff be directed to bring forward additional stormwater management charge scenarios as part of the 2026 budget process, in addition to rebate considerations.
Danielle, did you have something you wanted to say on?
Sure, yeah, through your worship to Mr. Strauss, sorry, yes, I'm Danielle Lucky and I actually live on your street as well. So we will be having a town hall coming up, so, and it will be one of the one of the items up for discussion, so I'd be happy to further discuss it then as well. See what else we can do.
And just so everyone's aware, the clarification as to why you guys at this point can't make any changes currently. The procedural bylaw states once council has enacted a resolution, adopted a
Sorry for the interruption. Technology's great when it works, and every now and then it fails. So we are resuming the meeting at 5:21 p.m. So at this point, we'll move into the public meetings regarding planning. A mover and a seconder that council adjourn its regular meeting at 5:21 p.m. and move into public meetings pursuant to the Planning Act to consider applications listed on the March 24th, 2025 regular council agenda. A mover and a seconder, Deputy Mayor Smybert and Councillor Heeman. All in favor? Okay, that passes. Let's proceed then. So item number 7.1, consent application B19-24 and B20-24, 2768-220 Ontario Inc., care of Patton Landscape Services Limited as the applicant, Strict Baldinelli Monitz as the limited, care of Jamie Robertson, the agent, and is at the end of Gerald Parkway on the south side and the east side of Rebecca Road. So an overview of the application, Lindsay Norn.
Good evening, Mayor and members of Council. For those who I have not had the pleasure of meeting personally yet, my name is Lindsay Noren. I am a registered professional planner and the new senior planner for Thames Center. Tonight, I am presenting report PDS-012-25 regarding the applications for consent B19-24 and B20-24. For lands located at the west end of Gerald Parkway and the east side of Rebecca Road in Thorndale. The purpose of these applications is to resubmit previously approved consent applications B1222 and B1322, which have since lapsed. The applications facilitate the creation of 2 industrial lots within a designated settlement industrial area. The subject property is 38.6 hectare property with frontage on both Gerald Parkway and Rebecca Road. The entire property is designated settlement industrial in the Thames Center official plan and is zoned rural industrial or M2 with full municipal services along Gerald Parkway. The first consent proposes to sever a 2.2 hectare parcel with 35 meters of frontage along Gerald Parkway. The second consent proposes to sever a 2.3 hectare lot with 86 meters of frontage. And these applications are identical to the previously approved ones with no changes to the lot configuration. As proposed, the subject lands are completely zoning compliant and the reduced lot frontage of 35 meters from the required 50 meters in the M2 zone has been addressed through a previously approved minor variance application, which was originally a condition of their first set of severance applications back in 2021. The purpose of these consents is for a future industrial subdivision. These applications are recommended for approval today, subject to conditions including the following: timeline for approval. So the certificate of consent must be issued within 2 years. Parkland dedication, the owner must provide cash in lieu of parkland at 2% of the land value. Servicing and infrastructure, so the lots must be connected to municipal water and wastewater. A hydrant installed and Gerald Parkway extended with curb, gutter, storm, sewer, and a cul-de-sac, all at the applicant's expense. An easement dedication, financial requirements, bylaw compliance, registration requirements, and a reference plan submission. The only modification from the previous approvals is administrative in nature and pertains to condition number 2. This just reflects the municipality's new parkland dedication bylaw, which now applies a 2% rate to industrial developments. Since parkland dedication is not normally a priority in industrial areas, the municipality will accept cash in lieu. There were no concerns raised by any agencies through the circulation process of this application. And in conclusion, these applications are consistent with previous approvals. They align with planning policies, both locally throughout the county and provincially. and meet the necessary planning requirements required for this type of application. Staff recommend that council approve consent applications B19-24 and B20-24, subject to the outlined conditions. The applicant is also here to speak as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is there any additional information that the applicant or agent would like to? You have someone
Yes, Your Worship. I
online?
have the agent online. His name is Jamie Robertson. I'm bringing him in.
Okay.
Hello, is everybody able to hear me?
Hi, Jamie. Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Through your worship, I'd like to thank everybody for their time here this evening and for the extra work with the technical difficulties. I understand how frustrating that can be, so thank you very much for getting through it. I don't have very much to say. Overall, just we'd like to thank municipal staff for their work on this file and for their support. And we hope that you go along with their recommendation for approval. And I'm here to answer any questions to the best of my ability, should you have any further questions on this application. So again, thank you very much for your time, and we'll hope for a good result.
Okay, Jamie, thank you very much. I'm just going to ask if there is any one either in the chambers or online who wishes to comment on this application. Okay, I'm seeing none, so I'm going to turn it over to council if they have any questions. Any questions from the members of council? None then. All right. So I guess there's nothing. So the next thing is that we will close the discussion on, and the public meeting is now closed. So at this point, do I have a mover for the recommendation to approve consent application B19-24 and B20-24, subject to the 8 conditions as appended to the agenda? Moved by Councillor Heeman and seconded by Deputy Mayor Smybert. Okay, all in favor? All right, that carries. Thanks very much. Okay, Jamie.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lindsay. So we will move on to item number 7.2, consent application B1-25, Edward and Diane Brulot as applicants, Stuart Finlater and Associates, Inc. as the agent, part of Lot 7, Concession 3, and Part 2 of RP 33R20080 North Dorchester. And we'll ask Ms. Cortez to present the overview.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. So the purpose and effect of the consent application is to convey a parcel of land to be added and merged with an abutting property to the south, known municipally as 1274 Shaw Road. So the subject property is approximately 17.3 hectares in size, and the property is vacant and used for agricultural purposes in the form of field crop cultivation. The property is within the settlement industrial designation of the Thames Center official plan and the general industrial M1-H zone. So with a holding provision, permits a range of industrial uses, which include a tradesman shop and a warehouse. And this holding provision is in place contingent upon the owner entering into a development agreement or similar in order to develop the lands. And the application seeks to adjust the boundary between the vacant industrial lot and the neighboring industrial lot, which contains Dorchester Storage Limited. And the owner of 1274 Shaw Road is looking to expand the lot size to expand the business in the future. And if approved, the retained portion of the property would be 6.6 hectares or 16.3 acres. And the lands to be conveyed are approximately 0.4 hectares or 0.99 acres. And in total, as enlarged, the property would be 3 acres or 1.2 hectares. And it's also important to note that the site-specific M1-10 zone permits the uses under the parent M1 zone, as well as an outdoor storage facility. And so that M1-10 zone applies to the property to be enlarged, 1274 Shaw Road. So there's a bit of a difference with the zoning of the lands to be merged or conveyed and merged, and the lands to be enlarged as existing. So it appears that the reconfiguration of the lot boundary between the subject lands does not result in any zoning deficiencies on either of the lots. And just as noted, the M1-H zone of the lands to be conveyed doesn't permit that outdoor storage facility. So a zoning bylaw amendment would be required in the future to permit the use on the conveyed lands. And as well, the development of the property would be subject to site plan control. So based on the foregoing, the subject application is consistent with the provincial planning statement, and it is in conformity with the County of Middlesex and Thames Center official plans. As the provincial policy statement, the County of Middlesex and Thames Center official plans generally support granting consents for the purposes of adjusting or correcting lot boundaries, provided that the consent does not lead to the creation of a new lot or irregularly shaped lot. In terms of agency comments were received from the county engineer, the director of public works, the drainage superintendent, the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority, and the chief building official. And these comments are included within the report. And as noted by the county engineer, land dedication for lands up to 18 meters from the center line of construction is required if it's not already to that width. And staff would like to add this as a 7th condition of consent, as it was originally missed. No public comments have been received to date. So staff recommend that application B1-25 be approved, subject to the 6 conditions noted in the report, as well as a 7th condition related to the county road widening dedication, being that the applicant be required to dedicate lands up to 18 meters from the center line of construction of County Road 32 to the County of Middlesex for the purposes of road widening if the right-of-way is not already to that width. Staff is recommending this for the reasons outlined in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Alana. At this time, is there any additional information excuse me, from the applicant or the agent? There is.
Thank you, Your Worship. Dan Smith. I'm representing Finlater and Associates and the owners on this application. It is very nice to meet everybody in person. I'm very tired of doing the Zoom meeting stuff, so it's just wonderful to meet face to face finally. Getting to the subject at hand. It's essentially, yes, adding additional lands to a longstanding business owned by Mr. Fisher. We too have reviewed the relevant policy considerations of the PPS provincial policy statement, the County of Middlesex official plan, and the Thames Center official plan, and also reviewed the requirements of the zoning bylaw. And we believe the application for consent before council is consistent and in conformity with those documents. We are aware of the requirement for ultimately removal of the holding symbol at some point in the process, as well as any other zoning matters which need to be addressed as conditions. We've reviewed the 6 conditions recommended by the planner and also the additional 7th condition. And we certainly don't have any issue with any of those. So we would state that the application represents good planning, and we are looking forward for some support on this one. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Is there anyone in the in the council chambers or online who wishes to comment on this particular application? Sarah?
Yes, your worship, we have Julian DeVos. I'll bring him over. Hi, Julian, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Perfect.
Yeah, so I represent the Da Vinci Business Park, which is just south of that property. And the only concern we have is about surface water drainage because our rear lot is substantially lower than this property. And when it's agriculture, the drainage is all into the ground. If they hardscape it, we're concerned that the drainage is going to come onto our property, and we had this previously, and we had a lot of silt and stuff on our back lot. So we just want to make sure that the drainage is going to be handled within their confines of the new lot, and not just redirected towards our property.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, is it Julian?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone who can answer that question? Alana, go ahead.
Thank you, your worship, through you. So during the site plan process, which would be required if those lands were to be developed or when they will be developed, stormwater management is looked into. So it would have to be designed to the satisfaction of the municipality, which does take into account any stormwater. Thank you.
And would we get notification of those?
Through your worship. So typically, site plan isn't a public process. So we don't typically notify residents about it because the zoning does permit that use. So it's
Okay.
just a internal process for the most part. And we just need to ensure that all staff is satisfied with the different components of the development.
Okay.
That answers the question then, does it?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. Are there any other questions? It appears that there's no one else either in the chambers or online. So I will then move this over to questions from council if they have any concerning this application. All right, I see none. So we need to have a, I'm sorry, I'll back up. If there's no further discussion, the public meeting is now closed on this application. And we have a decision. Do I have a mover for the recommended motion to approve consent application B1-25, subject to the actually 7 condition as appended to the agenda? I'm sorry, 6 and appended number 7, that the applicant be required to dedicate lands up to 18 meters from the center line of construction of County Road 32, which is the Shaw Road, to the County of Middlesex for the purposes of road widening if the right-of-way is not already to that width. So a mover and a second. I'm apologizing, ladies and gentlemen, struggling with a bit of a throat problem here. Okay, moved by Deputy Mayor Smybert and seconded by Councillor Heeman. All in favor? Okay, that motion carries. Thanks very much. Okay, we will move on now to item number 7.3 on your agenda. Erin, you're up. Consent application B2-25, McCutcheon Consulting, Inc., care of Ryan Pope as the applicant. Property address is 21778 Missouri Road, County Road 27. And Erin, when you're ready to present.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. So this next application before the committee this evening is a consent application, the purpose of which is to create one commercial building lot from a larger parcel of land. This application would separate an existing business from a vacant parcel to facilitate additional commercial development. The subject property is 1.84 hectares in size, situated on the east side of Missouri Road and the south side of King Street or County Road 28 in the village of Thorndale. The lands to be severed would be approximately 1.5 acres in size, with 263 feet of frontage along King Street and approximately 151 feet along Missouri. The lands are currently vacant, but they are subject to an ongoing site plan approval application, which proposes a gas bar with convenience store and car wash. The lands to be retained would be the yellow parcel to the south. It contains the existing drainage business known as McCutcheon Farm Drainage and additional vacant land that has been used for agricultural purposes in the past. This parcel of land would be approximately 3.2 acres in size. The lands are currently zoned GC2-7, which is the site-specific general commercial second exemption zone. The surrounding land uses vary considerably. We have existing and proposed residential uses to the north and to the east. And then we have quite a large area of industrial uses across Missouri Road, south of Thorndale Road. So this property was previously subject to a consent application, which, although similar, was slightly different. It wasn't looking for a full severance of the lands. It was looking for a land lease, which would exceed the 21-year maximum that you are required to have without approval from the municipality. This, again, was also to facilitate the development. However, the applicant did not fulfill the conditions, therefore the consent lapsed, and now he is back requesting the full consent to make them two separate parcels. So my analysis was primarily related to the fact that this property is located within Thorndale. It is designated general commercial, and this subject application proposes to support additional development at this location. Staff have been working actively with the proponent on the corner to go through the site approval process. It will, like I mentioned before, gas station, car wash, as well as a convenience store. And then this consent would facilitate that development. The Thames Center official plan provides additional criteria by which we consider these types of consents. Most of these matters can be dealt with through the site plan process and are being dealt with through the site plan process or have been added as a recommended condition of approval this evening. I also want to note that both severed parcels would be in compliance with the GC 2-7 zone, so no zoning deficiencies would be created through this process. The application was circulated as per the requirements of the Planning Act. The county engineer did indicate that there would be a road widening requirement of up to 18 meters from both King Street and Missouri Road. However, as the applicant is going through the site plan process, that is another consideration through that process. So it is something that they're already in the process of. And no other comments were received either by agencies, departments, or the public. So my recommendation to council this evening is approval subject to the 8 conditions that are outlined in my report. And I'm happy to answer any questions that council may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Is there anyone wishing to speak? Yes.
Yes, your worship. The agent is online, Ryan Pope. I'll bring him over.
Okay.
Oh, hi there. Sorry about that. I was just trying to get it off mute. No, everything looks good on my end. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. You can go ahead whenever you're ready. We can hear you.
No, everything that Aaron said is great. The 8 conditions, I looked it over. Everything's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, then. Fine. Thank you. So, anybody from the public?
Yes, your worship. Norm Stevens is a resident online. I'll bring him over as well. Why not? Hi, Norm. Can you hear us okay?
So if there are no comments from the public, then I would turn this over to questions from the members of council if there are any. Councillor Heeman.
Through your worship, I don't have any questions. I just want to comment that I think it's great to see, a series of commercial and industrial developments come forward. I think that's great given the uncertain times we're in.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? Okay. If there's no further discussion, then the public meeting on this particular application is now closed. Do I have a mover for the recommended motion to approve consent application B2-25, subject to the 8 condition as appended to this agenda? Moved by Councillor Heeman and seconded by Councillor Crocker. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Thanks, Aaron. Okay, we will move on. Let's see, I think I've lost my page here. 7.4 on your agenda is the zoning bylaw amendment application Z20-24. Fred and Susan Jameson as applicants, Stuart Finlater as agent. The property address is 5242 Marion Street. So we'll look to Ms. Cortez for an overview of the application.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. So the purpose and effect of this application is to rezone a portion of the subject property from the agricultural A zone to a site-specific agricultural zone to permit an additional residential unit, which is otherwise not permitted under the current zoning. So the subject property is a 2.7 acre lot on the north side of Marion Street between Clara Street and Elgin Road, and the lands contain a single detached dwelling with a floor area of 160 square meters, located within the urban settlement area boundary, and the dwelling is serviced by private well and septic system. And the lands also contain a detached garage with a floor area of 146 square meters. So access for the lands is available off Marion Street. And based on the information provided, staff was of the understanding that the existing driveway would be used to access the ARU. And having said that, from a windshield survey of the property, it appears there is a newer second driveway to the east of the existing dwelling, which may be proposed to access the proposed ARU. So the applicants are proposing to construct an ARU with a floor area of 201 square meters to be located north of the existing dwelling within the agricultural A zone of the property. So the property contains 2 zones. So at the front, we have the future development zone, which is within the settlement area boundary of Dorchester. And then north of the property, or the north side of the property is located outside of the settlement area boundary within the agricultural designation and is zoned agricultural. So the floor area of the ARU would be approximately 125% of the floor area of the primary dwelling. And not included within the ARU floor area calculation, the ARU would be attached to a 3-car garage. And the 3-car garage would be approximately 103 square meters or 1,116 square feet. So in total, the structure with the ARU and the 3-car garage would be approximately 304 square meters or 3,272 square feet. Wow, sorry guys. So the current zoning of the property does not permit an ARU. So the provincial planning statement provides policy direction to encourage an appropriate range of housing, including ARUs, to meet the long-term needs of the community. And the PPS states additional residential units within a prime agricultural area are to comply with minimum distance separation formulae requirements. They need to ensure they're compatible with surrounding agricultural operations. They have appropriate servicing, are of limited scale and located within attached or in close proximity to the primary dwelling or farm building cluster, and minimize the land taken out of agricultural production. The County of Middlesex official plan also encourages a broad range of housing types, and the County of Middlesex official plan defines additional residential units as a dwelling unit that is self-contained, subordinate to, and located within the same building or on the same lot as a primary dwelling unit. Additionally, the county official plan states local official plans and zoning bylaws shall address a number of matters, including that additional residential units are clearly subordinate in scale and function to the primary dwelling unit. The Thames Center official plan provides policy direction to allow ARUs in agricultural areas, provided that they are capable of being appropriately serviced. And the official plan also notes that any regulation concerning ARUs shall limit their size to ensure it remains clearly secondary to the primary dwelling unit, and furthermore, compliance with the Ontario Building Code shall be required. So with regard to the proposed ARU, staff has concerns with the size of the proposed ARU and is of the opinion that the ARU is not limited in scale as required by the PPS, is not subordinate in scale and function to the primary dwelling unit as required by the county official plan, and is not clearly secondary to the primary dwelling unit as required by the Thames Center official plan, since the proposed ARU is significantly larger than the primary dwelling. The Thames Center official plan also contains criteria used to evaluate zoning bylaw amendments, and while staff believe most of these criteria are capable of being met, as noted, staff does have concerns with the size of the ARU, and therefore is of the opinion that the proposal is not consistent with the provincial planning statement and does not conform to the County of Middlesex official plan or the Thames Center official plan. So in terms of agency comments were received from the county engineer, the director of public works, the drainage superintendent, and chief building official, and these comments are included in the report. In regards to public comments received, none have been received to date. So staff recommend the zoning bylaw amendment application be refused for the reasons outlined in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Alana. All right. So is there any additional information that the agent or the applicant would like to provide? Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Your Worship. Dan Smith again, coming up for another one. We've had the opportunity to review the planner's report. Thank you for that. Just to provide a brief summary, I'm not going to reiterate a lot of what was said already. We don't take issue with the planner's comments in terms of the documents reviewed and that kind of thing. In summary, we've reviewed the relevant policy considerations in the provincial policy statement and the county official plan, the Thames Center official plan, and we're of the opinion that the application for the zoning bylaw amendment to permit the additional residential unit is in conformity and consistent with these documents. Excuse me. If I might, if I may, Your Worship, just go through briefly a few comments that I have. With respect to the provincial policy statement, one of the key elements of this, and I quote, that additional residential units are of limited scale and are located within attached or in close proximity to the principal dwelling or farm building cluster. We would note that the use of the term limited in scale is somewhat vague, and the definition of a term is completely absent from the provincial policy statement. Similarly, the term in close proximity to the principal dwelling is again somewhat vague. There are no parameters established in the PPS as to what that distance might be. We also note that the province continues to elaborate on the need to address the housing shortage in municipalities. With respect to the county official plan, I know there has been some discussion or concern over the severance of these additional residential units once they're established. And because of where that, in the case of Mr. Jameson, where that where that dwelling would be located on the lot, it's in the agricultural designation, and the only avenue for a future severance would be through the surplus farm dwelling policies of the plan, which we're pretty certain would not be supported in this particular case. So very unlikely that that dwelling unit would ever be able to be severed from the lands. The definition of an additional dwelling unit, residential unit, is a dwelling unit that is self-contained, subordinate to, and located within the same building or on the same lot as the primary dwelling unit. Again, the language used, subordinate in scale and function to the primary dwelling unit. Again, there's no clear direction on what subordinate means. Scale and function. We would submit that the dwelling would be subordinate given its location alone. It's well set, it would be well set back from Marion Street and well to the rear of existing dwellings along Marion Street. We would also like to note that the Planning Advisory Committee held several weeks ago, there was a meeting held and they discussed the matter of additional residential units. And to our knowledge, nothing has been established or set in stone, so to speak, regarding any parameters regarding the size of these units. So it still appears as though the committee is still deliberating on how best to address additional residential units within a planning framework. Looking at the Thames Center official plan, the language there is that a second dwelling unit is permitted subject to the provisions of the zoning bylaw and in accordance with the requirements of the Ontario Building Code. This, in our opinion, is a policy that's currently in effect. We are aware of some amendments to the official plan as part of the update and review of the plan, but as far as we are aware, those matters are still under appeal. So the plan in effect really has a very minimal amount of comment on additional residential units outside of saying that they have to be meet the provisions of the zoning bylaw in accordance with the building code. So this is it's a large lot. It's divided by land use designations and by zoning. Currently, the agricultural zone does not permit an additional residential unit, and we have simply applied to permit that residential unit and at the size at which Mr. Jameson is proposing, which is approximately 200 square meters without the garage. Excuse me. So at this point, we would like to reiterate that there's nothing in the current Thames Center official plan, which is the official plan in effect, which limits the size of an additional residential unit. To us, this is a crucial consideration for council to make. Bearing in mind that even if the existing dwelling at 5242 Marion Street was, say for instance, at 4,000 square feet, we would not even be having this discussion on the size of the proposed additional residential unit. At the end of the day, there would be one smaller house and one larger house. So given the absence of any clear and concise language in any of the relevant planning documents, and in the absence of any standards which would apply to ARUs in the zoning bylaw, we believe the application before council raises no land use compatibility issues. It represents good planning and for the lack of for the lack of another response, it makes sense on the ground. We respectfully request that it be approved as applied for. Thanks for your time and consideration.
Thanks, Mr. Smith. Are there any members of the public inside the chambers or out online?
There's no one online, Your Worship.
Okay. Anyone in the chambers who wishes to comment on this particular application? No? Alana, go ahead.
Through your worship. So staff would just like to note that section 4, subsection 12 of the current Thames Center official plan does state any regulation concerning second units, now known as additional residential units, shall limit the size of the second unit to ensure it remains clearly secondary to the primary dwelling unit. Thank you.
Any questions from the members of council on this application or comments? Councillor Lockie.
Yeah, I have two questions. Through your worship, the first question is to the agent. What is the land currently being used for right now? Like, is it currently being farmed? No. Okay. Thank you. And then my question is to Ms. Cortez. So just for my understanding, with respect to the legislation, why is it important that the ARU be subordinate?
Through your worship to Councillor Lockie. So generally in the agricultural area, we are aiming to reduce the amount of land that is taken out of field crop cultivation or production or able to be used for agricultural purposes. So, you know, it is the policy direction to have that ARU limited in scale. So I guess it's not larger than the existing dwelling. It doesn't speak to allowing 2 dwellings or 2 single detached dwellings. It states, you know, a single detached dwelling with additional residential unit. So, you know, intending to eliminate or reduce the amount of land taken out of field crop cultivation and making sure that they can be close together. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? It's my mic. Any other questions from council? Comments?
Yes.
Councillor Heeman? Yeah.
I think that this is okay. I think this is a relevant case study in terms of how we deal with these ARUs and subordinate and size and whatnot. I think that the intention behind ARUs is to increase the housing stock, right? And I think the agent said it dead on. You know, if the main house was 4,000 square feet, we wouldn't be having this conversation. So there is a requirement to have a subordinate unit. At the same time, I think there's also provisions to allow for dual units at the same time. And I think if we're able to change the designation as to what is the primary and what is the secondary, then I think that would provide for building additional housing stock on large rural lots, which would otherwise not be fully utilized. I don't think it's anyone's fault that they buy a large lot that has a small house. And again, I think there's multiple instances of this coming forward throughout the township. So I think that if there's a process for us to work on redesignating the primary unit status, I think that's worth developing a draft policy around. So I know there's some other comments, but I would recommend in favor of deferral so that we could develop that policy, because I think that this will keep coming back.
Thank you, Councillor Crockett.
Thank you, Your Worship. On similar lines to how Councillor Heeman phrased his question, is that I think our hands right now are tied with the language that we've been given at all 3 levels of government. We have the opportunity, we know right now, to offer comment to Middlesex's official plan as it's under review right now. As per my motion that I put forward regarding ARUs and secondary dwellings in rural areas. Um, the parameters that are in place now just don't always make sense for the rural properties. And I think that's where our hands are tied, because we don't want to deter ARUs, but we also want to ensure a consistent and practical approach moving forward for all of the applications that are going to come. We don't want things to be ad hoc as they're presented. We want a consistent framework that we can follow when making these decisions. Mr. Jameson, you just get to be the first one, I guess. So I think it would be appropriate at this time to defer as well. I think we need some clarification to really put together some parameters that align with future decisions instead of refusal. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Smyburn.
Yeah, I just want to echo what the other members of council are saying. Of course, as a council, we are supportive of ARUs. We do want to see that that increase of residential development, but it's that word accessory, right? So accessory means smaller, and in this case, it's not. So to Councillor Crockett's statement there, our hands are a bit tied. I just don't know, and maybe the mayor can assist here. Is the planning committee looking specifically at ARUs, and will there be allowances, or was it a discussion about allowing larger houses than smaller ones? Because in this situation, Councilor Heeman's right. We've got a smaller house on a lot. Had no idea years and years ago when they built it that ARUs could be a possibility.
I can actually make a comment on this because I'm part of the planning committee with the County of Middlesex. And this has been a large topic as to how we proceed on this, because the original intention of the legislation, as I understand it, and also as I have tried to find out more information about it, is that the ARU in most instances are supposed to be either attached to or clustered within the existing residence. And so these are the kinds of things that keep coming to not only to this council, and we can perceive that there will be more in the future. But right now, because this is such a big topic at the County of Middlesex, I'm going to read you the motion from the last meeting. And that was that the county council consider including language in the official plan to prohibit the severance of, the severance of ARUs in rural areas. So that's one. This doesn't apply to your case. And to address the size and whether or not reverse ARUs and clustering. And that motion was carried by council. So what we're actually looking for is some direction on this, because the waters are a little bit muddy. And when I read the provincial planning statement, I also know too that where that confusion could be, because what exactly does subordinate mean? So in this particular case, I mean, I'm not voting on this, but I would be inclined that we need more information before we can proceed. Any other comments? Who are you? I saw two hands. I'm sorry.
Sorry, thank
Amanda?
you. Through you, Mayor McMillan. I just want to note that we are in a rock and a hard place, and we do really appreciate hearing the challenges and the cases coming forward and what the residents are looking for through their planning applications. The OP, as you know, for Thames Center is under appeal. So, and one of the factors of the appeal is ARUs. So therefore we can't update our zoning bylaw or OP in relation to ARUs. So we're kind of stuck in that rock and a hard place. And again, we would love to see some more direction come from the county and then further down to the locals. And it's not to say that we aren't looking into those changes internally and allowing for more creativity on the process with respect to rural properties. So I just want to speak on behalf of the planners. I know their jobs are tough right now because we are kind of in the interim of that OP appeal.
Thanks, Amanda. I appreciate the comments. Councillor Heeman, did you have something else you wanted to say?
Yes, and I'd like to make a motion if possible. But just first, again, I think we have a mechanism to allow for 2 primary dwellings to be built under bond. And if it's possible to then relegate one to be the new one to be the primary and the previous existing to be the secondary or ARU, I think there's a path in which using existing tools that we are in existing policy that we can find a path forward around these types of issues. But I think that we should have that clearly defined in policy if we're going to make that precedent rather than making ad hoc decisions. So I would like to make the following motion that the following resolution recommend the following application be deferred to provide the applicant and the agent the opportunity to resize the site of the proposed ARU and to provide staff the opportunity to prepare a draft policy for council to consider a process for redesignation of a principal residence on a single site.
Do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Lucky? All in favor? It carries then. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Smith and Mr. Jameson. Thank you to the planners. Okay, at this point, we will move on to item number 7.5, the zoning bylaw amendment application Z1-25, Nancy and Jeffrey Hicks applicant, Payton Shrub as the agent for the property 5197 Dorchester Road. And Aaron, go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. So the purpose of this application, as requested by the Hicks, Nancy and Jeffrey Hicks, they are requesting to rezone the balance of the farm to prohibit any new residential use consistent with provincial and local planning policy. So this property was previously subject to a surplus farm dwelling severance. Typically, we would see the zoning amendment application coming forward with the consent. However, the applicants decided to opt to do the consent first and do the follow-up rezoning once approval had been provided. So this property is 22.8 hectares in size. It's located on the west side of Dorchester Road, south of Gladstone Drive, and just south of the hamlet of Gladstone. The application was originally brought forward for consent on November 18th of 2024, which was approved. And one of the conditions, again, was to rezone the balance of the farmland to restrict it from further residential uses in the future. As council will be familiar with this process, the residential lot does not require rezoning, as we do have permissions within our zoning bylaw that speaks to undersized farm parcels created through this process. However, we do need to rezone the A zone, which is the large the remnant farm parcel that's outlined in red on the map. And we are looking to rezone this to a site-specific agriculture A-45 zone, which is our typical surplus farm dwelling farm parcel zone. And then this would speak to the restrictions, again, that there will be no residential, however, it will permit additional agricultural uses in the future. So I am satisfied that the application is appropriate and the rezoning is appropriate and consistent with all of our planning documents. No comments or concerns were received as part of the public circulation. So my recommendation this evening is that ZBA Z125 be approved and that the implementing bylaw be considered and included in the bylaw portion of the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Is there any additional information from the applicant or the agent? Sarah?
Yes, Your Worship, I have Nancy Hicks, the applicant online. I'll bring her in.
Okay.
Hi, it's Nancy Hicks here.
Hi, Nancy. We can hear you. Go ahead.
Great. No, I really don't have anything more to add. Just thank you for your time and just hear if there's any questions.
Okay. All right, then. Thanks. And there's no one in the council chambers who wants to ask any questions or comment on this one either? No? Okay, then. Any questions from the members of council on this planning application? No, none. Okay, it seems that there are no questions then. So at this point, I'll close the meeting on this portion of the planning applications. Do I have a mover for the recommended motion to approve the zoning bylaw Z1-25 as appended to the agenda? A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Crockett and Councillor Lockie. All in favor? Okay, that passes. Thanks very much, Nancy and Aaron.
Yes, thank you as well. Have a good evening.
Okay, you too. At this time, I'm looking for a mover and a seconder that the planning public meetings adjourn at 6:18 p.m. and council reconvene its regular meeting. A mover and a seconder, Councillor Crockett and Councillor Heeman. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. All right, item number 8, approval of the previous minutes held on February 24th of 25, approved as circulated. Councillor Crockett and Councillor Lockie, all in favor? That carries. Thank you. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. Items listed under the consent agenda are received for information in one motion. Council members may request that one or more items be separated for further action. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Heeman, is there any discussion on any of these?
Yeah, Your Worship, I'd like to put aside 9.2, please.
I'm sorry?
9.2,
Okay,
the Middlesex County Council highlights.
go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to draw some attention to the county's budget, specifically to the 37.8 increase in spending in economic development. I read all 231 pages of their budget, and this item is increasing the most, and it only had 8 pages. And on those 8 pages, it wasn't really clear to me where they're going to be spending more money and why. But what was clear to me from those 8 pages that this is just kind of the tip of the iceberg, and I don't get the impression this is just like a one-time extra spend. Kara did a presentation here a few meetings ago, and as a personal taxpayer and also as a business and industrial taxpayer as well, I'm not convinced of the importance in investing this much money in this initiative. Especially in this time of economic uncertainty, I don't think we need more tax. I think we need less tax and less debt. And, I appreciate that. I know the mayor has, pushed back on this and that we have not, kind of accepted this willingly. But I think we as a council need to be vocal on this. And I would go so far as to put through a resolution at the next meeting. That way it'll get circulated to the other councilors and give more transparency and hopefully get some traction.
Thanks, Danielle.
Yeah, if I could just speak to that, there certainly is additional information that's available. There was a study done, and all of the member municipalities, as well as some businesses, had indicated that there needed to be more services provided by that particular department, but we'll make sure we pull that information so that you have that. And that's really what the budget committee looked at when looking at that department and the budget. Happy to put that together for you.
So do you have any more like context then on why the 37.8% increase?
Yep. Again, I can get that information for you. Sorry, I didn't know you were looking for that until tonight, but
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
but-
just have to come across it.
yeah, no, but it really does. It's really that study that informed the budget committee and county council in terms of those extra expenditures that had been asked for by, again, member municipalities and businesses within the county.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anything else? Tom?
Yeah, I appreciate, through your worship, I appreciate Councillor Lockie's comments. I think we have been following this in the Economic Development Committee in terms of the updates to the Economic Development Department. And again, like having reviewed the budget and also the report, it does show like there are some minor additions in programming, but I believe this is largely to do with the development of the Economic Development Corporation. And I think that most of those added costs are due to added overhead as no longer being part of the county. And I think that's not necessarily the best value for money to have no longer have those overhead efficiencies and governance efficiencies and transparency.
Just beg a little, a moment, please.
Sorry, are you still out looking for items to be pulled before we, okay. So,
Sorry.
yeah, that's okay. Item 9.11 of the town of Hanover. They had a resolution with respect to tariffs and the support that the AMO is providing. So I'd like to see us endorse that as well.
Is there anything else then from the members of council? Okay. Okay. So the motion on this one will be that we are receiving for information with the exception of the 9.11, which we are going to have to are going to ask staff that they send this through to other municipalities, to promote this in support of the resolution from the town of Hanover. Okay, sure, you go right ahead.
So the motion would be that consent agenda items 9.1 through 9.10 and 9.12 be received for information and that council endorse 9.11.
A mover and a seconder. Councillor Crockett and Deputy Mayor Smyburn, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, one opposed. All right, so that carries. Thank you. Okay, reports of departments. Lindsay, this is item 10.1, PDS -013-25, the removal of the holding symbol at 233 Upper Queen Street in Thorndale, Z03-25. Go right ahead.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Thought it was so fun the first time, so I thought I would come back a second. I will be presenting the report PDS -013-25 regarding the request to remove the holding symbol from 233 Upper Queen Street in Thorndale. The purpose of this request is to remove the H or holding provision from the residential zoning, which would allow for the approved condominium development to proceed to the construction phase. The subject property is a approximately 2.4 acre parcel on the south side of Upper Queen Street, adjacent to the Thorndale Community Park. It is surrounded by residential dwellings, the Thorndale Baseball Trail, and the Thorndale Fairgrounds. Council previously approved the combined applications to facilitate the development of 38 townhouse units, including an OPA or official plan amendment to permit the medium density development, a ZBA or a zoning bylaw amendment from residential 1 to residential 3 with a reduced yard depth, as well as a draft plan of condominium establishing a vacant land condominium with private road access. The holding provision was put in place to ensure that a development agreement was executed between the proponent and the municipality before construction could proceed. And this agreement just simply ensures that municipal servicing and access requirements are met, that common elements such as visitor parking are secured, and the development aligns with planning and engineering standards. So since the approval of those applications, the developer has executed the required development agreement with the municipality, satisfying the conditions of the holding provision, meaning that there is no longer a need to restrict activity on the site. No concerns were raised by commenting agencies during the circulation of this application. And given that all of the conditions have been met, staff recommends that council approve application Z03-25 and proceed with the required bylaw to remove the holding symbol, allowing construction to commence for the condominium. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Any questions from council on this particular application? Nope. Okay. Seeing none then, a mover and a seconder for the recommended motion as attached to your agenda. A mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Lockie and seconded by Councillor Crockett. All in favor? Any opposed? One opposed. That motion carries. Thank you, Lindsay. All right, so moving on to some other reports. The first one is the 2024 Drinking Water System Summary Report, and Director of Public Works Jared Craven to present.
Thank you, Worship. Members of Council, before you, Council Report PWES-00225 contains 2024 drinking water summary reports for the Dorchester and Thorndale drinking water systems as required by the Ontario Regulation 170-03 of the Safe Drinking Water Act. As required, the summary reports are complete with water quality results, operational performance, and ministry objectives for Council to review. Also attached are the most recent MECP annual inspections that were completed at both systems. It should be noted that although the MECP inspections identified 3 nonconformances in Dorchester and 1 in Thorndale, all of these items can be considered minor in nature and either have been or will be corrected in the allowed time shown by the inspection score of 90 and 95%. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Jared. Does anyone from council have any questions on this matter? Nope. Comprehensive report. Thank you very much. Appreciate those regular updates about our drinking water quality. Anyway, the next one then. Oh, I'm sorry. Mover in a second. Yes, I know. I know. I'm going to blame it on the cold. Okay, a mover and a seconder. Deputy Mayor Smybert and seconded by Councillor Heeman. All in favor? Motion carries. That's why we have a clerk, you know. All right, item number 10.3, F001-25, 2024 Council and Board Remuneration and Expenses. Carmelo D'Angelo, Director of Financial Services, to present.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. This is my first report to you as treasurer.
I was going to jump on that, but I'm
Okay.
glad you said it first.
So the first one is your remuneration and expense report. And it's a requirement under the Municipal Act that prior to March 31st, that we report on an annual basis your remuneration and expenses. It's straightforward. I thank Councillor Crockett for catching it in air. In the reporting, there were some councillors who switched from a corporate phone to a bring your own device phone, and we didn't have it correctly recorded on our GL accounts, our general ledger accounts. thank you for that catch. And right, you have before you is the accurate council and board remuneration and expense schedule. If you have any questions, be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you, Carmen. Okay, so any questions from the members of council other than what was already caught? No? Okay, well, thank you very much. That was too easy. We'll get you a harder one next time. Okay, a mover and a seconder then, please. Councillor Crockett, seconded by Deputy Mayor Smyberg. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Lots of paper here tonight. The next one is also you, Carmelo. It's F002-25 Debt Information Report 2025 debenture issuance.
Thank you, Mayor, and to council members. This one has a larger dollar value to it. So we're seeking approval from council to issue debt in this fiscal year in the amount of $7.16 million for capital projects as we described in the report. And primarily the capital projects include King Street Sanitary Sewer, the Hamilton Oakwood Sanitary Sewer, the Peterson Drain Project, the Judge Drain Project, and substantially the amount is for the Flight Exec expansion project. I estimated the interest rate to be about 4%, but with the Bank of Canada lowering their interest rates, I'm hoping to come in anywhere from 3.25 to 3.75% on interest, which would further reduce our ARL. There's a requirement under legislation that we do not exceed 25% in our debt capacity. We're hovering with this approval. If you desire, we'll go to 9.95%, which I would estimate has plenty of room. If we had emergency contingencies, we have about 15% in a buffer in order if for any unexplained or unusual expenditures that we would have to face. But having said that, I think you're in a very good financial position in regards to your debt issuance.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the members of council on this report? Councillor Crockett.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm gonna say I have two questions because you answered a couple in your presentation there. Just for clarification, the stated Flight Exec project cost, does this already account for the DC contribution in it?
Yes.
Okay. And then follow up is there was note to the topic that there should, that Thames Center should have a debt management policy in place. So I was just wondering if you could provide a little bit of insight into the building of that policy from your standpoint.
To the mayor, thank you for the question. So one of the things I've noticed is some of your financial policies, your reserve policy, your debt policy, and also you do not have an investment. And so what I've conversed with the CAO is to update some of your existing policies and then introduce new policies in financial management. One of them was the debt management policy. There is references, very minor, in your procurement bylaw. However, there's a need for a debt management policy I would submit. So what I did was I solicited our neighboring treasurers to see what they have to emulate some of their best practices, and also from my own experience to craft a policy that will have guiding principles. So when I present to you a future debt issuance report, should the need arise, I would refer to the components of a debt management policy.
Thank you for that.
Is that it? Yes.
I'm good.
Okay, you said there might be two, so maybe there was more. Okay, any other questions or comments? Writing this. All right then. So then a mover and a seconder to receive that report number F-002-25 be received for information, and that council approve the 2025 debt issuance of $7,160,399.70 for capital projects as described in this report. Moved by Councillor Heeman and seconded by Councillor Lockie. All in favor? That carries. Thank you, Carmen. Okay. Item number 11 on the agenda, reports of committees. Items listed under reports of committees are approved by council in one motion. Council members may request that one or more items be separated for further action. And that reports of committees, agenda items 11.1 and 11.2 be approved as presented. So a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Lockie and Councillor Heeman, all in favor? That carries. Thank you. No items of unfinished business. I will at this point though, well, oh, I'm sorry. Tom, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand.
I just wanted to speak to, I think there was a request from the Economic Development Committee regarding engaging Gunn and Associates. So I know it's the general policy, if there is an ask of council, that you wanted to have that spoken to instead of just, you know, yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think like this has been before council once, and that was at that it was to engage and consult on a potential contract, and that is what staff did, and then that was presented to the Economic Development Committee. We've just passed it, so that the consequence of that is that we will be working with Gunn and Associates on soliciting public mural projects throughout Thames Center. And this is in the effort for beautification of our urban areas. So I think it's something to look forward to. And if you know any community groups who are interested in supporting local art installations or any properties that could be a good canvas, then feel free to direct them towards Mr. Gunn, and he has a website available online. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Okay. No motions, no new business. The next one then is a mover and a seconder that bylaws 23-2025 and 24-2025 be read a first, second, and third and final time and be adopted. Mover and a seconder. Michelle, I'm sorry, Deputy Mayor Smybert and Councillor Crockett. Then a second time. Are we good? Okay. A second, Councillor Lockie and Councillor Heeman. Third and final. They did it all at once. Okay. All right. So all in favor? That motion carries. Thank you. Just before we break for closed session, I would like to, since not everybody comes back on to Zoom for the balance of the meeting, I'd like to remind everybody that the next meeting of the council is Monday, April the 7th, 2025 at 5 p.m. This time will be held in Thorndale Lions Community Center at 265 Upper Queen Street in Thorndale, followed by the next meeting, which would be Monday, April the 28th, 2025 at 5 p.m. So at this point, Council will be moving into closed session for which there will be no live streaming. The live streaming will resume once the closed session portion has been completed. So the motion is a mover and a seconder to resolve that the council adjourn its closed session at 6:41 PM pursuant to section 239 2B of the Municipal Act in order for council to consider items related to personnel matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or board employees. A mover and a seconder. Deputy Mayor Smybert and Councillor Crockett, all in favor? That motion carries.